What's going on, guys? CryptoDave here at Top Tier Signals, and in this video I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about the annual Bitcoin conference that was held just this past weekend in Nashville, Tennessee, as well as some of the positive rumblings that have come about from speakers like Donald Trump, Robert F. Kennedy, as well as plenty of other prominent figures both in the space and in the traditional world as well. Now, in our last video, we discussed the recently emerging narrative of the United States election and its impact on Bitcoin as well as the broader crypto market, and I want you guys to remember the two key components of this narrative. The first component of the narrative is that a Donald Trump presidency would be a crypto-friendly presidency. Even a Robert F. Kennedy presidency would be a crypto-friendly presidency as well. The second component of the narrative is that Trump is the expected victor come November of 2024. And I'd like to talk about how the Bitcoin conference, as well as some other developments recently here in the United States election, has affected those two pieces of the narrative. So starting off with the annual Bitcoin conference held just this past weekend, we can see that we had an all-star lineup of speakers at the event, from Donald Trump to Robert F. Kennedy, Cathie Wood, Michael Saylor, Vivek Ramaswamy, as well as a plethora of different personalities both in the space and separate of the space. Starting off with Donald Trump, we had rumors before the conference that he would announce Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, and this is, as a matter of fact, exactly what we got. In addition to this, he mentioned that he wants to make the United States, quote, the crypto capital of the planet. He also mentioned that he would be firing SEC Chair Gary Gensler, who has been pretty openly anti-crypto, and certainly that would be something that the markets would really love to see. And this is absolutely unprecedented territory for Bitcoin, and I gotta say, fundamentally, it's extremely bullish to have people speaking like this. We've never had presidential candidates in a country as large as the United States speaking this highly on Bitcoin and their plans to introduce it as a staple of the economy. As a matter of fact, for quite some time, the United States has largely drug its feet on crypto adoption, and in my opinion, it's really slowed down the growth of this industry. But to have a powerhouse like the United States potentially adopting Bitcoin in several different ways and redefining the regulation to make things a bit more crypto friendly, this could be a huge step for Bitcoin in terms of mass adoption, which of course is the driving factor of Bitcoin's value over time. Even presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy is also speaking very highly on Bitcoin at the conference. He says, quote, "I will end the Biden administration's war on Bitcoin." He also wants to build Bitcoin into the United States economy as a strategic reserve asset. And he even took a little shot at Donald Trump, claiming that he's the bigger bull on crypto, that he's been personally invested in Bitcoin for quite some time, and that Donald Trump has only recently flipped his tune. Nonetheless, it's still excellent to see that two presidential candidates are speaking openly and positively about Bitcoin and discussing strategies that could incorporate Bitcoin into the United States economy and drive that mass adoption like we need to see. So the crypto-friendly side of this narrative of the United States election and the crypto market has certainly seen a huge boost. But I want to be unbiased here, and I want to talk about the second component of our narrative, which isn't looking quite as promising as it did a week ago. I am, of course, talking about the likelihood that Donald Trump or even Robert F. Kennedy will be elected president. Just last week, Donald Trump was expected to be president by a landslide. This was before Joe Biden dropped out, before Kamala Harris became the clear Democratic nominee, and whether you like Kamala Harris or not, whether you support her policies, we have to admit she's much younger, she's much healthier, and she's clearly in better shape to run a competitive race against former President Donald Trump. And I'd also like to turn your attention to her marketing efforts on TikTok, specifically to the Gen Z audience. All of these videos, they're going viral. They don't even feel like a political ad. And they're well in line with the trends that you're seeing on TikTok in terms of editing style, the music, some of the other minor trends going on TikTok. Her execution from a marketing perspective, remember, we're not gonna talk about specific policies, whether you like one person or another, but from a marketing perspective, her campaign is absolutely killing it. And this is not something that I think Joe Biden could have pulled off, or rather the Democratic Party could have pulled off with Joe Biden at the helm of this presidential race. So clearly Donald Trump's odds of victory have become much lower in the past week or two with the emergence of Kamala Harris's campaign on the Democratic side of things. One side of our narrative has seen a really nice boost, and the other side of the narrative has gotten hit quite hard. And ultimately, markets have priced this in as a net neutral thing. We haven't really seen too much price action since our initial wave to the upside, other than some relative sideways and choppy movement. And remember, this is not a political channel. We're not here to talk about one candidate versus the other and specific policies. We are exclusively focused on how the United States election is going to impact financial markets, and specifically Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets. And if you like this type of discussion, make sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our updates. But with that said, we're going to move aside from the politics and we're going to jump into the chart and talk about some of the technical things we need to consider going into the month of August. So let's first start by revisiting the monthly time frame. And again, the main thing I want you guys to notice here is the $60,000 level. This was a previous level of resistance in our 2021 bull market, and it's currently acting as a point of support on the higher time frames. We can see that in each of the last 5 months, price has either dipped down into this range or slightly below. And each time buyers have come in, they have driven price back up, and every single monthly close that we have gotten over the past 5 months has come above the $60,000 level, which is exactly what you want to see. A huge, significant piece of historical resistance now acting as support in what we would suspect to be the middle of a market cycle for Bitcoin. Now, admittedly here, with just a day and a half left in the month of July, our candlestick structure could be a little bit better in terms of bullish follow-through. Last week, we discussed how we would like to see the month of July close above the previous 2 months of price action, as we would see bullish follow through on a higher time frame. But ultimately, we're still holding that $60,000 level. And as long as that's the case on these higher time frames, I remain rather bullish going into the end of the year. So now let's move over to the daily chart. There's a few things to consider here, but the first thing I want you guys to make note of is our market structure. We have a series of highs, lower low, lower high, lower low, and now we have ultimately a higher high, and we have the chance to stick in a significant higher low, which would confirm essentially a trend reversal and moving from bearish market structure to bullish market structure here on the daily time frame. We're also going to be tracking this 21 and 50 moving average cloud. This is generally a great indicator as to the strength of the trend, whether or not we are in a healthy uptrend, healthy downtrend, or some sort of sideways market. And as we pointed out in our last video, the 21 has crossed above the 50, and a couple of days after this, we actually got our first retest of this range to act as potential support, and we had a very nice bounce from this level before sticking in our absolute swing high at just under $70,000 per Bitcoin. At the time of recording, we are holding our midpoint of our broad trading range here around $66,000, and we're also coming back into the cloud once again to test it as support. Moving lower to the 4-hour time frame, I want you guys to make note of 4 key levels. We have the $66,000 level, 64,000, 62,600, and 58,700. All 4 of these levels have had some nice confluence here just in the past month, and any of these levels would be a great spot to set in a higher low. We can also visualize a bit closer here the relationship with the 21 and 50 EMA cloud, as well as the $66,000 level where we're currently finding some bids and a little bit of support. Now, whether or not we bounce from this level, it truthfully doesn't matter. The main thing that we have to consider here on the higher time frame, specifically on the daily time frame, is can we stick in higher swing highs and higher swing lows. This is ultimately what we're looking for. We've reversed the course by setting in a significant higher high. We just need to stick in a significant higher low, ideally within this range above $60,000 before we are truly capable of getting that test of the upper bound of the range and then ultimately breaking out into price discovery. So that's going to be the key here. We have to hold $60,000 on the monthly time frame, and we need to see the bullish market structure intact, ideally with our 21 and 50 EMA cloud acting as support rather than as resistance. Another thing that I want to be mindful of here on the lower time frames are some basic momentum oscillators such as the RSI and the MACD. Should we see price come down to any of the 4 aforementioned levels and we see these indicators enter some oversold territory, ideally forming some bullish divergence at these levels of support, that would be a great shorter term signal that price is setting in that higher low and ready to move higher. We have not seen this yet. We can see that the RSI is clearly within the comfortable range, sitting right around 40 points. And the MACD has already set in its first rounded bearish histogram. So we're not quite there in terms of bullish signals from our indicators, but this could be something to watch here over the coming days to find that higher low, maybe place a good trade, and understand what's happening on the lower time frames and how it's going to affect the bigger picture. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about Donald Trump's speech at the Bitcoin conference. What do you think about Kamala Harris's presidential candidacy? And ultimately, what levels are you looking to go long on Bitcoin or even potentially go short? What are your thoughts on the market? Let me know in the comments down below. And until the next video, I'll catch you guys in the Discord. Peace.